Hello friends, today we are going to learn in some details phrases, but before that we must have some primary information. As you know, a sentence consists of one or more clauses. So before we start phrases, we must have some knowledge of hierarchy of units in English language. A sentence is the highest unit which can be studied grammatically, and sentences are made up of one or more clauses. A sentence that contains only one clause is a simple sentence. On the other hand, a sentence that is made up of two or more clauses is known as multiple sentence. Then a clause is made up of phrases, and as you know, phrases is a lower unit than the clauses, and phrases consists of, or they are made up of one or more words. Here I will like to explain that some phrases are made up of only one word. On the other hand, there are some phrases which consist of more than one words, and a word is the lowest unit in this hierarchy, because if we analyze or if we break further a word, we get speech sounds or phonemes. In other words, words are made up of phonemes or speech sounds. Then a phrase is made up of one word or more than one words. A clause consists of one or more phrases, and a sentence consists of, or a sentence is made up of one or more clauses. So this is about hierarchy of units in English language. Then what is a phrase? A phrase is a word or group of words that function as a unit within a clause or a sentence. So there are types of phrases, and each phrase does, or each phrase performs a particular function in the clause. And as I just told you, phrases are made up of a single word or more than one words. Now look at the example. Cats fight. So in this example there are two phrases. One of them is cats, another is fight. Cats is a noun phrase and it functions as subject in this particular example. Fight is a verb phrase and it functions as predicator in this example. Look at another example. Mary smiled. Again, this clause contains or consists of two phrases. One is Mary, another is smiled. Again, Mary is a noun phrase and it functions as subject in this sentence. Smiled is a verb phrase and it functions as predicator in this example. Now the next point is, as I told you, some phrases are made up of a single word, or there are some phrases which contain many words. Now look at this example. That beautiful car which Mary bought. Again, it is a noun phrase, but as you can see, it is made up of 6 words, and in this particular noun phrase, the clause which Mary bought functions as a post modifier. Now, if we strip this phrase of pre modifiers and post modifiers, only head word car remains, and so car is also a noun phrase. Now look at next example. His new friend. Again, it is a noun phrase. It is a noun phrase. Again, if we remove pre modifier and post modifier, only bare friend is again a noun phrase. And in the last example, bride of the king is also a noun phrase. Bride is also a noun phrase. So, as I just told you, a phrase may consist of only one word, or it may contain many words. Then the next important point is, what is the difference between a phrase and clause? We always hear these 3 words, that is phrase, clause and sentence. And as I just told you, there is hierarchy of units in English grammar, and sentence are made up of clauses and clauses are made up of phrases. So we must know what is the difference between a phrase and clause. So phrases do not have their own predicator and subject. Look at this example. The garden on the left side of road near new income tax office. So friends, though this example has many words, it is not a clause, it is a phrase, because it doesn't have a predicator or it doesn't have a subject. On the other hand, clauses have their own predicator and their own subject. For example, the cat is playing with mouse. In this example, the noun phrase cat functions as a subject and the verb phrase is playing functions as predicator. So remember difference between a phrase and clause. Phrases do not have subject and predicator, and on the other hand, clauses have their own predicator and subject. Then we will also must have some knowledge of elements of clause, because in this chapter we are going to study functions of the clauses. So these are the clause elements. P stands for predicator, S stands for subject, O stands for object, A stands for adverbial, and C stands for complement. Of these clause elements, predicator is the most important clause element because we cannot think of a clause without a predicator. Some clauses may contain only predicator, predicator plus subject, or some of these elements. In some cases, a clause may contain all of these elements. Then, of these elements, objects are of two types, that is, direct object and indirect object. Complements are also of two types. One is subject complement, another is object complement, and there are various types of adverbials according to the question they answer.